All right, this is the Algebra 1, Unit 5, Lesson 1 video. For this lesson is about looking at the intercepts of um, standard form equations. So real quick, we are still working with what we call linear functions, linear equations. So remember that we have two different ways that we can write the equation. We have the standard form, which is what we're going to be working with in this, and we'll also have the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to just note those here. So first thing, standard form is written in the following way. Let me choose a different color here. AX plus BY equals C, where A, B, and C are some number. And then, of course, in the slope-intercept, we have y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So in general, if you remember, when we look at a linear equation graph, and let's say this is my line going through here, the intercepts of this are going to be the point here and the point here. Since this is the y-axis, this is the y-intercept, and this is the x-intercept because it's the place where it crosses the x-axis. And of course, the slope we dealt a lot with in the previous unit. It's the change of the line as it goes across. But in this lesson, we're focusing on the intercepts of standard form equations. So first thing I want to say is make sure that you read over the lesson, of course, and look at the real world application problem here. I'll just kind of go through this real briefly so you can use it to answer some of the more like word problem questions. It says here, we're going to look at this. We're going to interpret the meaning of this graph. And this is kind of an important concept, is what does the y-intercept and the x-intercept mean when we're dealing with something in real life? So it says Stephanie had to turn in a book report on a novel that was 612 pages long. If she had 12 days to finish reading the book, at least how many pages would she have to read daily to complete the book report on time? Draw a graph. What do the x and y intercepts represent? So we have on our y-axis, we have the number of pages in the book. It's right here. Along the x-axis, we have the number of days. And you can see that the number of pages that she has to read decreases as we go along the days until we get down to no pages. So let's talk about what the points we see here mean. That would be the x and y intercept. So this would be the y intercept. And you can see very clearly this is at the number 612, which came from the problem here. So to me, it means that the y-intercept of this graph is the number of pages that she started with. And then it decreased until we get down to nothing. So that would be, in a sense, the starting point. And you can always think of the y-intercept that way. It's the starting point. Where does the y begin? And then something similar is a way to think about the x-intercept. So if we look at the x-intercept, we see it's down here and it hits at 12. Well, that would be the number of days that it took her to read all of these pages. In other words, it's kind of, in a sense, the ending point of this relationship. So we started with 612 pages to read. That's the y-intercept. And after 12 days, it ended. It got to 0. So then that's the x-intercept. So in this first part of the lesson, you're going to answer some general questions about vocabulary. So answer those. And then you have a very similar problem, like the example I just went over with you for number 4. So you answer the question based on the graph and the information given here. All right. Now, I'm not going to open this, but there is a worksheet on the second part. I'll go ahead and open it actually. And it has some problems here where they ask us to find the x and y intercepts of different equations. So I'm going to do some examples of these because I made up some problems of my own. So let me jump to my other drawing. And I'll show you really quick how to do these problems. Some of them are going to be set up in standard form already. So like this first problem you see here, this is already in ax plus by equals c. And so in order to do this, there's one kind of big concept that we have to understand, and it is that in x-intercepts, the y value is always 0. And in y-intercepts, the x value is always 0. So how does that impact the way we solve it? Well, in a sense, when I am looking at a standard form equation and I want to find the x-intercept, it means that the y is going to go away. So again, when I want to find the x-intercept, the y is going to go away. So this, when I look for the x-intercept, I'm going to solve this equation, 3x equals 12. So in other words, I'm taking away the 4y. And I need to solve that equation, 3x equals 12. Whereas for the y-intercept, I do the opposite. I take away the 3x, leaving me with 4y equals 12. I could go into a detailed explanation of that, but basically what you need to understand is that we're taking 0 and we're putting 0 in for the x or the y, depending on what we're looking at over here. So for x-intercepts, we only look at the x part. That should make sense. We solve for x equals 4, and that's the answer that goes here. For the y-intercepts, we look only at the y term. We solve. Again, we're just solving basic algebra here. And we get 3, which is the final answer. And so these would be the x and y intercept of the graph. And if I were to graph that, I'm going to get into too much detail about the graphing. But look at this. If I graph these 2 points, x-intercept is 4. The y-intercept is 3. That means this would be the basic graph of that function right there, because the x and y intercepts are 2 points that I can use to graph it. All right, now some of them are not going to be set up for you. So in this example, this is not in standard form, so we need to put it in standard form. So remember, for standard form, our goal is to have ax plus by equals c. So we need to have the x and the y on one side and the number on the other side. So let's go ahead and let me erase that. And let's make this so that we have ax and by. Well, in order to do that, I need to move the 5y over so that I end up with 3x minus 5y equals negative 15. Notice that negative stayed there. And now I'm in standard form. I'm already ready to do this. So again, if I want to solve for my x-intercept, I'm only going to look at the x. And for my y-intercept, I'm only going to look at the y. So I would do it the following 2 ways. For my x-intercept, I would do 3x equals negative 15. And for my y-intercept, I would do negative 5y equals negative 15. Notice that the negatives came with the terms. So this negative goes with the 5, and this negative goes with the 15. You have to keep that in mind to make sure you're being careful about that. All right, so let's solve. We're going to divide both sides by 3 here, and we get x equals negative 5. That's going to go right here, giving me my x-intercept. And for my y-intercept, I'm going to divide by negative 5. And I get y equals 3. And so that 3 goes there, and we are done. Now that's all you have to do on these problems. So let me look at one more just to give you another example to look at. You may not need it, but here's another example. Again, not in standard form. So I'm not going to go into a drawn-out explanation of that, but we need to put it in standard form. So we need to move the y over. So that's going to be negative 3x minus 2y. We also need to move the 6 over, so we're going to subtract 6 as well. So I move the 6 to one side, I move the 2 back with the x, and now I have this equation right here. All right. So now we're going to break it up into 2 parts. We're going to do negative 3x equals negative 6, and we're going to do negative 2y equals negative 6 to solve for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. I'm going to solve by dividing. See how there's a pattern here to how you solve these. Those go away, giving me x equals 2. That goes here. And then this goes away, giving me y equals 3. That goes here. and those are the x and y intercept of that equation. So that's it. That's what you have for the worksheet. There's a few examples, and then you have number 6. So you could just put your answers on a separate sheet of paper and then submit a screenshot or an image that you take with your phone or something like that. All right, so that's it for lesson 1. There are kind of 2 separate pages you have to do, as you can see, to go do that. And then the answer key should be available to you after you complete the second part of lesson 1. And the rest of those we'll get to later this week.